she was so certain she could get away with murder. And she might have, had it not been for the persistence of this father. The year was 2005, and the picturesque streets of Old San Juan, Puerto Rico, were about to become the stage for a saga that would captivate the world. It all began with the tragic murder of a young millionaire named Adam Anhang. Adam was a Winnipeg, Canada native who had made his fortune in real estate and gaming software. At just 32 years old, his net worth was estimated to be a staggering $24 million. But his wealth and success couldn't protect him from the dangers of the world. On a fateful night in September 2005, Adam was found beaten and stabbed to death on the cobblestone streets of Old San Juan. It was a senseless and brutal crime that left his family and loved ones devastated. The prime suspect in Adam's murder was his wife, Aurea Vazquez Rijos, a former beauty queen. It was alleged that Aurea had hired a hitman to kill her husband after he had filed for divorce. She was dubbed the Black Widow by the local media. Adam's father, Adam Anhang, was determined to find justice for his son. He suspected that there was more to the story than met the eye, and so he embarked on a decade-long pursuit of the truth. Adam Anhang's determination and perseverance are a testament to the power of love and the strength of the human spirit. His unwavering commitment to finding justice for his son is an inspiration. The crime. Adam Anhang's death was a tragedy that shook not only his family, but also the entire city of San Juan. The young Canadian real estate developer had moved to Puerto Rico in search of a new start, but instead, he found himself caught in a web of deceit and betrayal that ultimately cost him his life. The story of Adam Anhang and Aurea Vazquez Rijos began like a fairy tale. Anhang, a successful businessman from Winnipeg, Canada, met Vazquez, a former Puerto Rican beauty queen, in 2004. The two quickly fell in love and were married within months. But their relationship soon soured, and by September 2005, they were in the process of getting a divorce. On the night of September 22, 2005, Anhang and Vazquez met in Old San Juan to discuss their pending divorce. As they walked through the historic district, they were attacked by a figure who emerged from the shadows. Anhang was stabbed repeatedly and bludgeoned with a cobblestone, while Vazquez was left with minor injuries. The attack was brutal and unprovoked, leading many to believe it was a random act of violence. But as the investigation unfolded, it became clear that Anhang's death was anything but random. The young real estate developer had been targeted by someone who wanted him dead. The investigation into Anhang's murder was complicated by the fact that he had been involved in a number of business deals in Puerto Rico. He had purchased a restaurant for Vazquez and was also involved in a real estate development project in Old San Juan. These business dealings raised questions about who might have wanted Anhang dead and why. As the investigation progressed, the police focused their attention on Jonathan Roman Rivera, a 22-year-old dishwasher who worked at the restaurant Anhang had bought for Vazquez. Rivera was arrested 3 weeks after Anhang's death and charged with his murder. He was later convicted and sentenced to 105 years in prison. But Anhang's family was not convinced of Rivera's guilt. There was no physical evidence linking him to the crime, and they believed that someone else was responsible for Anhang's death. Their suspicions were confirmed when Alex Pabon-Colon was indicted for Anhang's murder. According to the indictment, Vazquez had offered Pabon money to kill her husband. 2 other unidentified people were also allegedly involved in the plot. The case was a media sensation, with the Canadian media closely following the trial. In the end, Vazquez was found guilty of orchestrating her husband's murder and was sentenced to life in prison. The accused. Aurea Vazquez Rijos was a former Miss Puerto Rico Petite winner. She was a beauty queen, a woman of grace and charm, or so it seemed. But as we'll soon discover, there was more to her than met the eye. What started as a love story between Anhang and Rijos quickly became a web of deceit and betrayal that ultimately cost Anhang his life. Anhang's murder was a senseless act of violence that shocked the community. But as the investigation unfolded, the police soon focused their attention on his young bride, who had been married to Anhang for just 6 months at the time of his death. Vazquez proclaimed her innocence, but she refused to cooperate with investigators. She fled Puerto Rico for Italy, where she lived in Florence and then Venice. Despite her refusal to cooperate with the authorities, a judge recommended that she spend the rest of her life in a Fort Worth, Texas prison for her role in Anhang's murder. But that's not the end of the story. After Anhang's murder, Vazquez filed a civil suit against her late husband's family, seeking $1 million in damages and millions more from his estate. However, a judge in Puerto Rico dismissed her suit, citing lack of evidence. The victim. Adam Anhang was a remarkable individual. It is quite unfortunate that he was met with such an untimely demise. Adam Anhang was a successful real estate developer and CEO of an online gambling software company. He was a man with a bright future ahead of him, having moved to Puerto Rico in 2002 to pursue his dreams of hotel development and business success. He was a graduate of the prestigious Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania and had a net worth estimated at $24 million. Anhang's life took a dark turn when he met Aurea Vazquez Rijos, a former beauty queen and widow. The two quickly became involved in a relationship, and Anhang even bought Rijos her own restaurant, Pink Skirt, as a gesture of his love and commitment. The relationship soon soured, however, when Rijos announced she was pregnant, a claim that was later revealed to be false. Anhang felt pressured into marrying Rijos, and the two wed in a small ceremony in March 2005. As the relationship deteriorated, Anhang became fearful of Rijos and hired a bodyguard for protection. But on one fateful evening in September 2005, Anhang agreed to meet Rijos for dinner in the hopes of finalizing their divorce. He gave his bodyguard the night off, hoping for a peaceful and amicable resolution. But the evening took a tragic turn when the couple was attacked as they walked through Old San Juan. Anhang was brutally beaten and stabbed to death in front of Rijos, who sustained minor injuries herself. The attack was a shocking and senseless act of violence that left Anhang's family and friends in mourning. The investigation into Anhang's murder was complicated by the fact that he had been involved in a number of business deals in Puerto Rico. Not only had he purchased a restaurant for Rijos, he was also involved in a real estate development project in Old San Juan. These business dealings raised questions about who might have wanted Anhang dead and why. The police initially focused their attention on Jonathan Roman Rivera, a dishwasher who worked at the restaurant Anhang had bought for Rijos. Rivera was arrested 3 weeks after Anhang's death and charged with his murder. He was later convicted and sentenced to 105 years in prison. But Anhang's family was not convinced of Rivera's guilt. There was no physical evidence linking him to the crime, and they believed that someone else was responsible for Anhang's death. The motive. Now, the plot thickens. Prosecutors allege that Aurea orchestrated her husband's murder to cash in on his fortune. As previously mentioned, Adam was worth an estimated $24 million, and Aurea had signed a prenuptial agreement that would have cost her millions if they divorced. According to prosecutors, Aurea had plans to get her hands on Adam's money, and she wasn't going to let a little thing like a prenup get in her way. So, after Adam's murder, Aurea fled Puerto Rico and went on the run. She lived in Italy, first in Florence and then in Venice, trying to evade capture. But she couldn't escape the long arm of the law. Aurea was eventually caught and extradited back to the United States, where she faced trial for her husband's murder. The evidence against her was overwhelming, and in the end, she was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. It's a tragic story that serves as a reminder of the lengths some people will go to for money and power. Adam Anhang's life was cut short by a woman he once loved, and his family was left to pick up the pieces. The investigation. Initially, the case seemed straightforward. Jonathan Roman Rivera, a kitchen worker, was arrested and convicted of Adam's murder. However, his conviction was overturned after a witness came forward, casting doubt on his guilt. The investigation then turned to Alex El Loco Pabon Colon, a small-time drug dealer who eventually confessed to killing Adam. He claimed that Aurea had offered him $3 million to carry out the murder. This revelation stunned investigators who had been pursuing Aurea as a person of interest in the case. Aurea, meanwhile, was living a life of luxury in Italy, trying to evade capture. But hiding out only worked so long, and she was extradited back to the United States to stand trial. During the trial, witnesses recounted how Aurea had manipulated Adam into marrying her by faking a pregnancy, and then orchestrated his murder to inherit his fortune. Her greed and deceit knew no bounds. In the end, justice was served. Aurea was found guilty of her husband's murder and sentenced to life in prison. Her downfall was a testament to the power of perseverance and determination in the face of adversity. The investigation into Adam Anhang's murder was a long and arduous journey, but it ultimately led to the truth. It's a story that reminds us of the importance of seeking justice for those who have been wronged and the power of perseverance in the face of adversity. Attempt to escape justice. During her time living in Italy and Spain, she was even dubbed the Black Widow by the European press. During her time on the run, she had 3 children and fought extradition to the U.S. and Puerto Rico. How did Rijos manage to stay under the radar for so long? In 2015, she was finally extradited to Puerto Rico to face charges, with the condition that she would avoid the death penalty. Turns out, her father-in-law, Abe Anhang, played a big part. He hired a detective named Farouk, who tracked Vazquez Rijos' every move in Italy and throughout Europe. Despite her efforts to avoid detection, Vazquez Rijos was never far from Farouk's watchful eye. In Italy, Vazquez Rijos tried to blend in, even offering her story to a Puerto Rican newspaper reporter for $5,000. She also entered a relationship with an air conditioner contractor, which resulted in the birth of twin girls. However, the relationship ended when the contractor's family learned of her fugitive status. Vazquez Rijos also infiltrated the Jewish Orthodox community in Florence, claiming to be a widow in need of help. She even convinced them to accept her daughters into their daycare center. But when Abe Anhang traveled to Florence to expose her lies, it caused a rift within the community. Throughout her time in Italy, Vazquez Rijos maintained a close friendship with a wealthy banker named Paolo Gallardi. He helped her set up a travel agency and financed her legal fight against extradition. Gallardi insisted that she was innocent and that justice makes mistakes. In her final days in Italy, Vazquez Rijos moved to Venice and got involved with a local diamond merchant. But her luck finally ran out when she was arrested in Spain in June 2013. It's speculated that her arrest resulted from a carefully executed sting operation led by the FBI. The sentence: Aurea Vazquez Rijos was ultimately sentenced to life in prison after being found guilty of conspiring to murder her wealthy Canadian husband in 2005. She had allegedly paid a hitman $3 million to carry out the crime. The jury's guilty verdict came on October 3, 2018, and she was subsequently given her sentence by Judge Daniel Dominguez. Vazquez Rijos was seen crying in court as the judge ordered her to be transferred to a prison in Fort Worth, Texas. Despite her claims of innocence, the judge upheld the jury's decision, ensuring that Vazquez Rijos will spend the rest of her life behind bars. And that's the end of the story. It's a sobering reminder of the consequences of crime and the importance of justice. What do you think of this case? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. And if you have any suggestions for future videos, feel free to drop them in the comments as well. Stay curious, stay connected, stay with Reely Unreal.